photographer and 2 people from the design company were like, "You're not pissed enough." And I was like, "Fucking hell, I'm fucked." And I went downstairs to this room where I think they used to put gigs on and put me on stage, and the photographer just like, and that's when we were just constantly smoking cigarettes. I was sick. I still didn't think it would be an album cover then. I thought it was just something to be in the inlay. And then I think Andy sent it me, or Alex, saying, "We're using that as front cover, is that all right?" And I was like, "Whoa, there's no hiding there." And I wasn't going to say no, do you know what I mean? Like, yeah, go for it.
I'm Chris McClure. In 2006, my face was on the front of the fastest-selling British debut album of all time. This series is about addiction in the music industry. I myself have had issues with alcohol, and 6 months ago began addressing them.
I do think that addiction is rife in the music industry.
People with fragile temperaments coming up against a really hard-nosed business.
Success is the dangerous part of being in the music industry.
Episode 1 is about alcohol and how a lifestyle of touring, performing and partying can leave people susceptible to addiction.
There were no like quivering in a corner with a bottle of vodka with a curtain shut. My drinking weren't be like that. It was very much a binge mentality where once I started I didn't want to stop. I'd be that out of control that people around me or my loved ones would have me in a room saying, "What is going on?"
I mean, what I noticed culturally regarding drinking, especially from touring around the world, is in Europe, it's a much more paced consumption of alcohol. In England, I think it's about going out and getting hammered as quick as you can. You can go to shops and buy alcohol. So therefore, the stigmatisation of something being illegal isn't there. It's been culturally accepted, more so than drugs.
The venues that you're playing in make their money by selling alcohol, probably more money than they do out the tickets.
I think being in a band, it's part and parcel of it. There's always a rider. If you're going to be the artist, there's almost an expectation as well. You're the one that's going to indulge.
They're surrounded by alcohol and surrounded by culture that says that it's cool to drink and it's cool to be dangerous and it's cool and you've got to be cool and you're supposed to be cool because you're a rock star, so they'd be cool. And then expect them not to start relying on it.
There's just so many factors to it where it's like served up to you. You're surrounded by it constantly.
Ian Hamilton is the senior lecturer in addiction and mental health at the University of York.
Out of all the drugs that we currently have access to as a population, alcohol probably ranks as one of the most dangerous, if not the most dangerous drug. The number of deaths we see, the number of incidents of cirrhosis of the liver, all the kind of social damage that happens through alcohol is really horrific. It doesn't get the attention it deserves, really.
I've come to speak to Lawrence Taylor, lead vocalist of metal band While She Sleeps, who over the last 12 years have toured the world relentlessly.
It was a huge part of culture to go out into town drinking, wasn't it? Especially in the UK. That sort of culture was installed in me personally from a very young age, and I think that's what carried on into a touring lifestyle.
In early days when you first started touring, how often were you exposed to alcohol?
Every single day, without fail. And I guess at first you're kind of in that thing of like, this is sick. Like, this is exactly what we want to do. Meet people that like our band and not pay for booze and just get smashed and have a good time. Didn't matter what you had to do the next day because you knew you would, at some point you were driving to the next show and we didn't have a lot of cash. So we get paid in booze. So it's like, well, that's what we're gonna do then to fill our time up.
Jason Williamson is the voice behind Sleaford Mods. He's been very vocal about his struggles with alcohol and since 2016 has remained in sobriety.
Wait. Oh no! Oh no!
I wanted to know about the role of alcohol in a busy touring lifestyle.
When you're on tour, you're in your own world, and so you do believe that you can pretty much do what you want. Until, of course, you've got to think about the performance. So I wouldn't drink before the performance, and then after, yeah, bang, you know. And you've got, say you finished at 11 at night, you've got 6-7 hours before you have to think about getting in the car and going to the next place. So that's a long time.
But in music, it's kind of like promoted almost.
Yeah, it is. That's what people don't realise, is you go from town to town, every night's a party, you've got a different crowd who want the party, as you were saying, you know. And you just go with it.
The lifestyle of the music industry doesn't just affect the artist, which is why I spoke with Yasmin Benafia, who has worked in A&R, promotion and events management for 7 years.
I was already quite a heavy drinker when I came into the music industry, and I think it's part of what appealed to me about working in music, because I kind of saw it as this opportunity to live this like rock and roll lifestyle. I could go out, I could get pissed all the time, and it would kind of be my job to do that. Even now that I don't drink, I am very often in situations where I have to meet clients and everybody is drinking, or we'll get a new client in, a new artist will come through the door and it's suggested that we go for a drink. No one says no. And I think that's half the problem, is that like you feel so grateful to even be in the music industry. You feel like you have to be on all the time. You have to be available for everyone. And the easiest way to do that is to just go out and have a drink.
Another negative aspect of my alcohol consumption was that of cigarettes. I always tended to smoke more whilst under the influence of alcohol.
So psychoactive drugs definitely play a part in our ability to either not have a cigarette or to even be sort of quite preoccupied with having a fag. You think, oh, so what, just one, I'll quit tomorrow, I won't have any more. So it kind of lowers your threshold for sticking to decisions that you maybe made earlier prior to having the drug.
Did you have like a watershed moment where you thought, this is it, I have got to address my problem?
My mental health took a really serious turn. I went missing, and that day I was pretty certain that I was never coming back. And I did come back, something clicked, and I was like, right, I need some time off drinking it. And that was the 29th of September 2016. On the 2nd of October, I was like, right, I'm going to commit, I'm going to do this month off. I experienced more new things and learned more about myself in a month than I had done in like 2 years. And it was almost like I'd come out of the bubble and I could see it, and it was just chaos and sadness and pain. I was just in pain, and I didn't want it back.
You've had to rethink your relationship with alcohol. Can you tell us why?
Yeah, completely flipped out, lost my mind. Was in a bit of a hole with everything, and the guys had no choice really but to be like, look, you've got to have some time out. They didn't know how to deal with it. I'd, been violent, lashed out, without realising it, got back into some old ways of like just really, really hitting the alcohol hard. And they had no choice really but to send me home.
Did they carry on the tour?
Yeah, they had some shows left to do, and they didn't want to cancel on fans of the band basically. And yeah, came home for the first time ever.
How did that make you feel?
It was awful, really awful, yeah. But yeah, so this has led me on to now giving it up, reaching out to the people, listening to people a lot more than I probably ever have, and taking it on board seriously that this is a bit of a problem.
It stems from your mental health. It's not like you just end up with a problem with alcohol, do you know what I mean? There's something in you that needs attention.
Do you feel that you had the tools or the support network to go to a go-to place to discuss them issues you were having within the industry?
Not at all. It was never talked about. It was never even mentioned. And I think that's why I could never really recognise that I had a problem or be proactive about it, because you look around you and everyone is doing the same thing as you, and no one else seems to have a problem. And what I've realised is that only I can define what's a problem in my life. You can only define what's a problem in your life. And so to measure yourself by what everyone else is doing and going, well, they look fine, is not a way to measure whether or not there's a problem in your life.
In this high-pressure, fast-paced lifestyle, I wanted to find out what help is out there for people who are struggling within the music industry. Joe.
Hello.
You're here.
I am.
Thank you, mate, for taking the time out to speak to us.
That's all right. No, it's good to speak to you.
Joe Hastings is the head of health and welfare at Help Musicians UK.
We want to try and support a world, and certainly within the UK, where musicians thrive, where they're able to be creative and where they're able to do that in a balanced way that supports kind of their health and welfare. There are really good examples of people and organisations that work in this industry that are part of a wider conversation that's starting to happen.
New Note Orchestra are an organisation that are making positive steps for people in recovery from drugs and alcohol. The group use music as a form of therapy to support people in their sobriety.
My name is Molly Matheson and I'm the founder of New Note Orchestra. We've got 3 aims in New Note Orchestra. First is to play and compose music of really high quality. The second is to perform and put on those performances to destigmatise alcoholism and drug addiction. And the third is to obviously help people stay sober.
I used alcohol to numb me against life. I found life very difficult. It's given me a new kind of purpose because I can express myself in a different way. It's opened out my life quite a lot. And it's, you know, I see myself as a musician now, which I never thought I could be. I thought that was other people, you know, that was Sting or the Beatles. And here I am acting and being treated as a musician because I'm playing music.
It's a real connector. If you're playing with somebody across the room and you're playing a riff and someone's kind of, you know, playing with you, that can be a really huge connection between those two people. But you haven't expressed any words, you've just played a bit of music together. And so that's a really powerful connection that can be then used outside to form bands and for that kind of mutual support to happen.
Those networks and those people who have personal experience, we know through our research that their experiences and the things that they can impart to other people, the reduction in stigma that they're able to kind of get across through talking about their experiences, it is hugely beneficial. What's just as satisfying is to see other things building, to see other organisations and other individuals who are doing really amazing things that are kind of starting to really change a lot of the narrative of what's available for musicians in terms of support.